Hello there, this is TP807 and today I'll be having a look at some games that came out in April, so a couple of months ago now. This episode is into the depths, so let's have a bit of a look, shall we? Got a few games I'll be covering this time, so here are the first 15, so a few interesting titles there, and the other 14, so 29 games just for April. So let's get started, shall we? First up is It Has My Face by NightByte Games. It entered early access in September last year. So this is a first-person horror game. We have to try and to find your evil clone and kill it before it finds and kills you. The latest update adds a multiplayer mode and as well as a few new maps. So let's have a look. So that is It Has My Face, available for Windows, Mac, Linux, $9.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10 or Ubuntu 20.04, Intel Core i5 3570K, 8GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Apple M1 or a Intel Core i5 4570, 8GB RAM, an Apple M1 or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970 and 2GB of free space. Next up we have Wasteland Bites by CosmicDev. This is a horror food truck simulator about collecting and cooking strange ingredients in an apocalyptic wasteland while avoiding, rabid dogs and mutants, usual food truck simulator fare. So let's have a look. So that is Wasteland Bites, something a little bit different. Windows, Mac, Linux, $9.99 US. System requirements are Windows 7 or 10 or Ubuntu 18.04, 2.4 GHz CPU, 2GB RAM, 256 MB for the GPU, and 1.5 GB of free space. Basically the same on the Mac side, macOS 10.12 Sierra, same for the CPU, RAM, GPU, all that kind of thing, so you shouldn't have any trouble running it. Let's continue. Spark on the Dark is by Stellarfish. It entered early access in April. This is a hardcore dungeon crawler with 5 classes to choose from, interactable environments, equipment damage, and a skill level system, as well as a number of books and scrolls through the lore about the dungeon itself. It's expected to be in early access for about 2 to 3 years. So let's have a look. So that is Spark in the Dark, available for Windows and Mac, $16.99 US. System requirements are Windows 7 and DirectX 10. And on the Mac side, macOS 10.14 Mojave. No information on the size of it, so yeah. Continuing on, KuloNiku Roll Up. This is by Gambir Studio. This is a cozy cooking game where you manage a family restaurant, serving various quirky locals and upgrading stations and competing against other restaurants. Very reminiscent of Cooking Mama. Instead, they've even made reference to it in a couple of their posts. So let's have a look. So that is KuloNiku, available for Windows and Mac, $11.99 US. System requirements, Windows 10, Intel Core i5 6600K or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600, 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti or a AMD Radeon RX 570, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS X 10.6 line, Intel or Apple CPU, 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti or a AMD Radeon RX 570, and 2GB of free space. Continuing on, Idols of Ash by Leafy Games. This is a first-person horror climbing game where you must escape a large centipede chasing you through an abandoned megastructure. But your content warning for themes of illness and suicide, as well as the aforementioned giant bug. So let's have a look. So that is Idols of Ash, available for Windows, Mac, Linux, $2.99 US. System requirements: Windows 7 or later, or any Linux distribution. Intel Core i3 7th Gen or an AMD Ryzen 5 2600, 4GB RAM, Intel HD Graphics 5000, and 1GB of free space. On the Mac side, Intel Core i3 7th Gen or Apple Silicon, 4GB RAM, and 1GB of free space. Continuing on, we have Gods of Sand by Achenar Studios. This one entered early access back in February 2022. It's a turn-based gladiator manager, including managing a old ludus or gladiator school, buying new weapons and armour for your gladiators, and as well as battling others. So let's have a bit of a look. It had a bit of a troubled development cycle. So a bit of a shorter trailer, that one. So, Windows, Mac, Linux, $9.99 US. System requirements: Windows 7 or Ubuntu/Debian, 2GHz CPU, 2GB RAM, 3D acceleration capable GPU, and 300MB of free space. Similar on the Mac side, so yes, you shouldn't have any trouble running it. Continuing on, we have Fishing Inc. by BigBonk Studio. This is a charming fishing incremental game with a number of different species of fish to catch, equipment and skills to upgrade, and a variety of locations to visit. So let's have a look.
Hi, I'm making a game called Fishing Inc. It's a cozy incremental game where you fish to get rich. It starts off pretty simple. You catch a few fish, you sell them, and upgrade your gear. But as you progress through different zones, you'll master different species and fill in the fish log. And if things get too tough, upgrades in the skill tree will make your life a lot easier. If Fishing Inc. sounds fun to you, the demo is out now on Steam. Give it a try.
So it's Fishing Inc. available for Windows and Mac, $4.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10, dual core 2GHz CPU, 2GB RAM, 1GB of free space. On the Mac side, Apple M1 CPU, 2GB RAM, 1GB of free space. Continuing on, OPUS Prism Pink by SIGONO Inc. This is a narrative adventure game where you play as a photographer travelling alongside a amnesic girl, exploring the mysteries of the Dusklands and trying to return home. This was the fourth in the OPUS series. It's been going for a little while, so let's have a look.
Where's the shade? Where's Ren?
Well, are you a failure?
Could do better. But it's hard. Every time I try, someone gets hurt.
I don't understand any of that. But thanks for coming with me.
You must look after her. Don't let her fade, so you don't get lost.
Come on, friend. Follow us. We won't let you lose your way.
Anyone you've photographed is a friend. Let the spirits guide your path forward.
Light?
Yeah, you're my light.
So that is OPUS Prism Peak, available for Windows and Mac and the Switch 2. A PS5 version has been announced for later this year, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. It's $24.99. System requirements: Windows 11, Intel Core i5 7400, or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600, 8GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 or a AMD Ryzen RX 570, and 9GB of free space, a little bit larger. On the Mac side are macOS 26 Tahoe, Apple M1 CPU, 16GB RAM, and 9GB of free space. Continuing on, Airborne Empires by the Wandering Bard LLC. This one entered early access in January last year. It's an open world city builder in the sky, including managing lift, thrust and balance, researching new upgrades, exploring different areas, and taking on skill pirates. So let's have a look. That is Airborne Empire, available for Windows Mac, $29.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10, Intel Core i5-8400 or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660 or an AMD Radeon HD 7870. On the Mac side, macOS 14 Sonoma, Apple M1 CPU and GPU. Space wasn't mentioned, so not entirely sure. Continuing on. Worthy or Not by Mystery Crown. This is a FMV dating agency / matchmaker game with choices that influence the story's path, including encouraging or discouraging fantasies and solving relationship issues. Mystery Crown have been going through a little bit of a rough patch recently, so hopefully they're able to recover. So let's have a look.
我叫郝佩。大学毕业后的第2天，家里就开始为我的终身大事操心。在流入人才市场之前，就先流入了相亲市场，从单人相亲到集体联谊，相着相着，相着相着，我终于成为了相亲公司的老板。喂，老王，
兄弟，我有几个会员推荐给你。
这个老王总是把一些难搞的顾客推给我们。什么叫卖你啊？彩礼给我了，不就是我的了吗？他如果爱我，我就算要80万，他也会给。一个男人啊，如果连这一点想都没有，那他凭什么要结婚？
和这月收入不到2万的男性直接被开除人籍，不配拥有配偶了。
可是我不想给男人花钱，如果他来花我的钱的话，我会觉得当男味有点重吧。
所以我想找一个 A8.5到 A9 全新的人。现代男人的自尊心都不强，万一我找的人你不值，那我怕他会松了气，松了气。邵小姐，您别往心里去。
你不会是有孩子了吧？
我今天是来相亲的，没有孩子，跟这有关系。玩的是多好，
我真的是心态都崩了。
真难了。这些会员的关系资料我已经整理好了，可是配对的事情还得拿走。看，一定。
guess a bit of an abrupt ending to that trailer there. So, Windows and Mac, $6.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, Intel Core i3 CPU, 4GB RAM, DirectX 11 capable GPU, and 20GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra, Intel Core i3 CPU, 4GB RAM, and 20GB of free space. The FMV is always a bit larger. Continuing on, Vampire Crawlers, the Turbo Wildcard from Vampire Survivors by Poncle and Nosebleed Interactive. This is a roguelike, a deck builder dungeon crawler with escalating combos, card upgrades, treasures, and some familiar and not so familiar enemies. So let's have a look. So that is Vampire Crawlers, available for Windows and Mac, PS5, Xbox X and S, and the Switch 2. Android and iOS support has been announced, but I don't think they're out yet. $9.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, x64 architecture with SSD2 support, 4GB RAM, DirectX 11 or 12 capable GPU, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 14 SIGONO, Apple M2 or an Intel Core i9 CPU, 2GB RAM, and a AMD Radeon Pro 560X. But you shouldn't have any trouble on it. So let's continue. Shapez 2 Factory by tobspr Games. This one entered early access back in August 2024. This is a massive factory building game about creating, cutting, and painting increasingly complicated shapes, with the ability to make multiple factory levels, trains, and logic gates. So let's have a look.
Welcome to Shapez, a game about building vast space factories that extract shapes, dismantle them, and reassemble into completely new ones. As an operator, you deliver shapes to the Vortex, fulfill quotas, and unlock new technologies. Shapez 2 is a pure automation game, designed to be easy to pick up and play at your own pace, making it the perfect introduction to the automation genre. While it's simple to start, it's a challenge to master. Shapez is different to other factory games in that there's no set recipe to solving these challenges. With no build costs and infinite resources, you decide the solution based on the tools available, whether that's painting, cutting, or stacking, allowing you to transform basic shapes into intricate multicolored creations. Perfect a single production line, then scale it up with blueprints and copy and paste tools into massive networks of belts, pipes, and trains. Delve into research and unlock a wealth of upgrades such as logic gates, allowing you to set up complex make-anything machines. With 4 difficulties in classic mode, flexible map generating systems, and over 70 achievements to unlock, you'll find a challenge to suit you. For advanced players, Manufacture Mode challenges you to build permanent mega factories and launch the Vortex platform. With mod support and additional content planned for the future, the fun won't stop there. Shapez 2 is available now on Steam. The Vortex is waiting.
So that is Shapez 2, available for Windows, Mac, Linux, $29.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, Intel Core i5 10 10400, 8GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 570 Ti, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Apple M1 CPU, 8GB RAM, Apple M1 GPU, and 2GB of free space. Continue on. Titanium Core by AP Thomson. This is a strange match 3-ish style game where you become Queen of the Furry Kingdom. I'm not entirely sure how to describe it beyond that. You'll see why. Let's have a look.
Hey, hello, it's me, it's AP Thomson, back with another go at letting you all know about my new interactive EXE, and I guess I needed to make another attempt because the last one generated some complaint. Like, did you know that I failed to explain what the game even is? And apparently I'm supposed to keep these under 90 seconds, but I am nothing if I'm not learning, and I am nothing if I'm not listening, so gonna go correct both those mistakes in a single take. How much time do I have left anyways? Whoa, 90 seconds is shorter than I thought it was. Can we speed up the explanation of the game in post so that it fits? We can? Hell yeah, let's do that then. So titanium cord is got it?
Yes, so that's Titanium Core. So available for Windows and Mac, $14.99. System requirements: Windows 7 or later, x64 architecture, 2GB RAM, OpenGL or DirectX capable GPU, 600MB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Intel or Apple CPU, 2GB RAM, 4GB for the GPU, and 600MB of free space. So you shouldn't have any trouble running it, whatever it is. Continue on. SimplePlanes 2 by Jundroo LLC. This one entered early access in April. It's a multiplayer vehicle builder sandbox game. You make a variety of planes, cars, boats and missiles, and race against other users across nearly 800 square k's of terrain. It's expected to be in early access for about a year. So let's have a look.
For years, you've built incredible machines, all by your lonely self. Well, that ends today. Welcome to SimplePlanes 2. Multiplayer is finally here. Race your friends, battle your enemies, or just build and chill. And don't worry about leaving your old fleet behind. You can import your creations from SimplePlanes 1 and give them a next-gen upgrade. We've crammed 330 kilometers of roads into a massive 787 square kilometer dreamland. Because here at Jundroo, we prioritize aviation puns over, well, everything else. Discover new airports, racetracks, train tracks, docks, a power plant, an old city, even a castle. It's a huge playground waiting to be explored and exploded. Water now features realistic waves and underwater rendering. There's new dynamic weather and fluffy volumetric clouds. But it's not just about where you fly, it's how you build. Say goodbye to blocky wings. Now we've got fully procedural, curvy wings with way better physics. Need more room? Slice holes directly into your fuselage to hide weapons, landing gear, or snacks for later. Prop engines were rebuilt from the ground up with better simulation and way more options. New procedural jet engines deliver serious punch, but transonic drag keeps your ego in check. Use the drag visualization tool to help streamline your designs so you can smash through the sound barrier. And it's not just planes anymore. With the new car engines, suspension, and powertrain systems, you can build high-performance race cars, off-road buggies, monster trucks, and whatever these abominations are. Design your own custom missiles and unleash fury from a distance with the new targeting pod. Watch the action on your shiny new cockpit MFDs. And meet your new pilot, Major Chad. He handles the G-forces, so you don't have to. SimplePlanes 2. Be a pilot, an engineer, a crash test dummy, and everything in between. Build, fly, crash, together. Get it today on Steam. Seriously, bring friends. The bots are tired of your experiments.
So that is SimplePlanes 2, available for Windows and Mac, $19.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, Intel Core i3 at 3 GHz, 8 GB RAM, dedicated GPU with 3 GB of VRAM, and 6 GB of free space. So, yeah, not too bad. On the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Intel or Apple M1 CPU, 8 GB RAM, metal capable GPU with 3 GB of VRAM, and 6 GB of free space. So you shouldn't have any trouble running it. Continuing on, Flock Around by SimplePlanes Games. This is a co-op multiplayer birdwatching / photographing game, photographing game with a number of different species across different biomes. So let's have a look.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Face me, face me. Oh, oh, oh! It's on my head.
Got it. That was so wholesome.
Look at this little snowy owl. Oh, he's so cute.
Oh, look at the hummingbirds. Oh man, that's a lot of poo for a little hummingbird. Okay, guys, we need stars to open up the marsh.
That's a triple. Look at this.
Whoa! It's a quail. Look,
where?
He's doing Chicago.
Oh my god, there he is.
Balloon has my favorite bird called. Oh yes, dude. He struck a little pose for me.
I kind of like this fleece.
The one thing. Oh, and you can look at the pictures.
I'm eating a grilled cheese.
What?
Birdwatching takes a lot of energy.
Oh, 3-star belted kingfisher. Oh, is there shiny? You hear that?
Oh my god. Oh, phew, that was good.
I'm gonna upgrade my zoom. Look at this one. You're looking slightly up at it.
So that is Flock Around, available for Windows and Mac, $4.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, 2 GHz CPU, 8 GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, and 4 GB of free space. On the Mac side are macOS 14 Sonoma, Intel Core M or an Apple M1 CPU, and integrated graphics card, and 4 GB of free space. Continuing on, Vending Machine Co. by Road Duck Interactive. Repair, restock, and manage various vending machines across a Japanese-inspired city with different areas and districts to sell items in. So let's have a look. So that is Vending Machine Co. Available for Windows, Mac, Linux, $14.99 US. System requirements are Windows 7 or Ubuntu 12.04 or SteamOS. CPU is a Pentium G860 or better, 1 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GT 840M, and 1 GB of free space. On the Mac side are Mac OS X 10.6 Snow Leopard, Intel Core M or an Apple M1, 2 or 3, 1 GB of RAM, OpenGL capable graphics card with 128 megabytes of VRAM and 1 GB of free space. So yeah, not too bad. Continuing on, this is a pun by Find the Lamp Games. So This is a Chinese meme game about trying to guess the correct bird based on given images in a certain number of guesses. It's done quite well on Steam, quite interesting. Recommended for multiplayer. No trailer for this one, wasn't able to get it working. So it's available for Windows and Mac, $2.40 US. System requirements are Windows 10 or 11, Intel Core i5 6400 or AMD Ryzen 3 1200, 8GB RAM, integrated graphics card, and 3GB of free space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.15 Catalina, Intel or Apple CPU, 6GB of RAM, a metal capable graphics card, and 3GB of free space. Continuing on, Global Rescue by PeDePe GBR. This entered early access in April. Build a base and manage your emergency services anywhere in the world with a upgrade and research system, as well as training and vehicle maintenance. It's expected to be in early access for about 1 to 2 years. So let's have a look.
Several people were injured in a traffic accident. Immediate backup required. Perpetrator was successfully arrested.
That was a quiet Tuesday. Let's start from the beginning. Pick a city, any city in the world, even small villages. If it's on a map, it's in the game. This is where you take over emergency services. Build your headquarters. Hire and train your crew. Buy and maintain your fleet. The first call comes in easy. Fire in a building downtown. You send a truck. Handled. But the phone keeps ringing. Every unit you send somewhere is a unit you don't have somewhere else. And that's the job. As your area gets larger, you have to build more bases to reach all emergencies on time. Oh, and one last thing. When you've mastered everything the world throws at you, you can build your own challenges. Create your own missions, vehicle skins, or new vehicles. Or discover what others have created. Police, firefighters, paramedics, SWAT. Any city on Earth. Global Rescue. Your city needs you.
So that is Global Rescue, available for Windows and Mac, $24.99 US. System requirements, Windows 10 or 11, or AMD or Intel quad-core CPU at 3.5 GHz, 16GB RAM, AMD or NVIDIA graphics card with 2 or 4 GB of VRAM, and 10GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 14, SIGONO, Apple M2 CPU and GPU, 12GB of RAM, 10GB of free space. So it's a little bit demanding. Continuing on, Moomintroll, Winter's Warmth by Hypha Games. So this is a charming adventure/puzzle game set in a Nordic winterland with new and old characters to meet and befriend. It's more of a family game. I've seen a few people recommending their children had fun with it, so let's have a look.
Every autumn in Moomin Valley, for as long as anyone can remember, perhaps even longer, the Moomins prepare for their annual slumber. Dreaming happily all through winter, waiting for spring to return. Every year. Until this one. When Moomintroll wakes up to his very first winter, he finds himself utterly alone. Longing for someone to take care of him, Moomintroll decides to leave the safety of home and venture into a world he no longer recognizes. Soon, Moomintroll realizes there are others out there, others that need his help. Through being there for them, the reluctant adventurer discovers a courage of his own, learning that he's more capable than he ever imagined, doing all he can to help spring return to Moomin Valley. Moomintroll, Winter's Warmth, A wondrous adventure inspired by the beloved stories of Tove Jansson.
So that is Moomintroll, which is Warmth, available for Windows and Mac, the Switch and the Switch 2, $19.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10, Intel Core i5 3570K or an AMD equivalent, 8GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 780. On the Mac side, macOS 13 Ventura, Intel Quad-Core i5, 8GB of RAM, Metal 3 capable GPU, and 5GB of free space. So yeah, not too bad. Let's continue on. The Last Gas Station by Alawar. Restore and upgrade an old service station out on the countryside, offering mechanical repairs, selling goods and snacks, and don't go outside in case you vanish, all the usual kind of thing. So let's have a look. That is the Last Gas Station, available for Windows and Mac, $13.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, Intel Core i5 6402P, or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600, 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960, or AMD Radeon RX 550, and 800MB of free space. Similar on the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Apple M1 CPU, 8GB of RAM, and 800MB of free space. Continuing on, Cubic Cosmos by Extend Atelier. This one entered early access last year in September, and is a combination roguelike deck builder and tower defense game, summoning and upgrading your minions and creating combos to help take on the goddess's forces. So let's have a look. So that is Cubic Cosmos, available for Windows and Mac, $12.99 US. System requirements are Windows 7, Intel Core i5 760, or an AMD Athlon 2 X4 6x5 AM3, 4GB RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 550 Ti, or an AMD Radeon HD 6850, and 3GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 12 Monterey, Intel Core i5 CPU, 8GB RAM, Intel Iris Pro GPU, and 2GB of free space. Crop Deck is by PeDePe. It's a farming roguelite, I should say, a deck builder with a number of different crops to discover and grow. As well as scarecrows help protect against weather and gives bonuses. As well as a taxman to take care of, because yay. So let's have a look. So that is Crop Deck, and there we go. So available for Windows, Mac, Linux, $12.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10 version 21H1 or Ubuntu 22.04. CPU x64 architecture with 2.5 GHz CPU, 3 GB RAM. DirectX 10 or Vulkan capable GPU. And 800 megabytes of free space, so you shouldn't have any trouble there. On the Mac side, Mac OS 11 Big Sur, Apple Silicon or a x64 architecture with SSD 2 support at 2.5 GHz, 3 GB RAM, a metal capable Intel or AMD GPU, and 800 megabytes of free space. So, continuing on, Twin Shot Deluxe by Nitro Limited. This is a updated re-release of the 2009 Flash platform arcade shooter with 2 bow-wielding cats fighting enemies across over 200 different levels across 4 worlds. So, let's have a look. So it's Twin Shot Deluxe, available for Windows, Mac, iOS, Android and Switch, $9.99 US. System requirements: Windows 7 64-bit, Intel Core 2 Duo at 2.1 GHz, 500 megabytes for the GPU, and 800 megabytes of free space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 12 Monterey, Apple Silicon or Intel CPU, and 800 megabytes of free space. Yeah, so you shouldn't have any trouble running it. Walk of Life by Porcelain Fortress entered early access last year. It's a life sim board game style game for up to 6 players. A number of careers to follow, an apartment to furnish if you want an upgrade, as well as quests and global adventure experience. So let's have a look.
Gather up to 6 players and compete in the ultimate life simulator, Walk of Life. Choose from a variety of unique roles: workaholic, senior, shopaholic, scavenger, adventurer, drifter, mystic. How will you find your way through Walk of Life? Will you climb the corporate ladder and spend your earnings on the fanciest stuff? Or will you live on the streets and spend your days adventuring? Get the perfect pet for you. Dog, cat, turtle, pet rock. Then take care of it, or face the consequences. Take advantage of world-shattering global events. Do secret missions to get an edge on your friends. Gain powerful abilities from education and exotic furniture. Go fishing. Lose everything on the stock market. Or get lucky and win the lottery. Find your way through life and beat your friends to the top in the ultimate life simulator, Walk of Life. That's the title of the game.
So that is Walk of Life, available for Windows and Mac, $19.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10, quad-core CPU at 4 GHz, 8 GB of RAM, Intel UHD Graphics 630 or NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750 Ti, AMD Radeon RX 550, and 8 GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 12 Monterey, Intel Core i5-8400 or an Apple M1, 8 GB of RAM, Apple M1 or AMD Radeon RX 570, and 8 GB of free space. So, Dungeon Crawler by Straightforward Studio. This one entered early access back in November, like a couple of years ago. This is a roguelike deck builder involving a claw machine to fetch items and weapons for you to use against the local dungeon inhabitants, should we say. So, let's have a look. So that is for Windows, Mac, Linux, PS5, Xbox X, Series X and S, iOS, Android and Switch. $14.99 US. System requirements: Windows 7 or 10, Ubuntu 18.04 or 20.04, or CentOS 7. Quad-core CPU, 4 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660 or an AMD Radeon RX 460, and 2 GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra, quad-core CPU, 4 GB of RAM, a metal-capable GPU, and 2 GB of free space. So the honourable mentions. First up is Stiffneck by Team Uranian. So this is a visual novel about a female police officer, a number of cursed dolls, some strange characters, and a figure known as the Flyer. Sounds like a nice chap. Mature content in this one, including depictions of extreme violence and suicide. So, yeah. Next up is Skull Horde by 8-Bit Skull. This is a auto-battling dungeon crawler where you summon and upgrade a number of different skeletons, your minions, to help clear out the various stages. Regions of Ruin, RuneGate, is by Gameclaw Studio, a 2D hack and slash RPG where you have to establish a new settlement for the Lost Dwarves, fending off monsters and helping your allies across a variety of terrains. And finally, Inconbini, One Straw Many Stories by Nagai Industries. This is a slice of life game about working at a convenience store inspired by 1990s Japan, including meeting customers, stocking shelves and tidying displays. So that's it for April's look. It's a little bit late, my apologies. So, yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. So, yes, thank you.